Hey everyone, I'm going to cover my 4 favorite exercises for hip and lower back pain. What I'm talking about here is the area right into here, a little bit into here, and a little bit into here. Some of you will deem this as SI joint pain, but sometimes you can cross the back and so on. And so I'm going to cover my 4 favorite exercises or stretches today with it. Make sure to stay tuned for the last 2 exercises. They're my personal favorite, and a lot of you in the other video have loved them as well, so I'm going to put some final tweaks on those as well. Let's get into the exercises. Now, one of the first ones to do is going to be you want to add hip range of motion if we possibly can. Some of you cannot actually do it because you have a physical limitation of hip range of motion because something like severe osteoarthritis or so on. But most of us can. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to push our hip. I would start with your non-symptomatic side, and then we're going to pull. We're going to push into full range. It's going to feel a little bit like tweaky, not tweaky, but tight right here, and pull. When you do this one, you should not feel on the inner side. You should feel the back side. You should feel the glute. Okay? I'm going to change angles a little bit just so you can see. Okay, we're going to push, and we're going to pull. Now, next we need a couple breathing into this because breathing is going to be important. Breathing creates decompression into the spinal region. It also helps the hip align itself too. So it can help out with a lot of different things. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a deep breath in your nose and you're going to blow out of a little straw. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to find that range. In the nose, out the straw, and then change. In the nose, out the straw, and then change. I tend to have people do 5 times in one direction first, and then the other direction. So a rep would be a single breath, as I just showed you in that mannerism. Then you will go to the other side like so. So you push in the nose, out the mouth. Long breaths are really nice. Now, let's just say this is the side where you're having problems at, and you're starting to feel some of the hip or like the back side here when you're doing it. The key is don't push through any range that actually bothers you. Some people have been told, oh, you have to push through it, like you have to, no pain, no gain. That's incorrect. Because pain is actually your body telling you that this is not the correct thing for you. And so you're going to stay just out of the painful range. If you approach the range and it's right here, you're going to go just about here, and then you're going to breathe a little bit more, okay? Now you may find that certain ones will, certain exercises or stretches like this, they'll actually improve their range over a couple of reps. And that's okay. So normally if your range, let's use my wrist as an example, if my wrist only tolerates like this much range, and if I go through a couple reps and it can tolerate that much range, and then that much range, you want to approach new range. That's the whole point of getting more mobility. You want to be able to actually attain more motion. So let's start with a passive one just like so. Now the next one we're going to do is called a windshield wiper. Many of you have probably been told to do windshield wipers before, and I do like them, but at the same time, like the biggest thing that people do poorly is they just get so sloppy. They just, and they flop their legs around like so, and then they wonder why this thing hurts them, all right? Ideally, like the whole point of the exercise is to keep some stiffness here while you're approaching range really slow. And I can use my elbows or my hands as rudders, and then you're going to slowly see how far you can get without losing pressure into here versus just slopping through, okay? And you're just going super slow, almost like you're surrounded by glass shards, and you want to make sure that you get as close as you can without actually cutting yourself. Same breathing applies on this. You're going to in the nose, out the mouth. I like to do about 5, 6, 7 reps per side, really slow. Just kind of take time to yourself. You probably had a busy day and just relax. Okay. Now as you go through this, just know that we do have a webinar available too. I think we had it in the old video, the old outdated version. This video is pretty detailed about hip, low back, groin, sciaticas, and so on. So take advantage of it. It's free. It's intended to give you more information than you'll ever find anywhere on the internet. Okay? So you've done about 5 reps per side, roughly, breathing, taking your time. And so that's a nice way to kind of milk out the spine and help that interplay between the hips, pelvis, and spine. Now the third one is called a cat-cow. Some of you may have seen it before. I like to teach it in a specific way. Remember that breathing is going to encompass a lot of things that, or the things that you do for rehab and exercise just for a little bit of time. It mainly helps out with decompression of the spine. Again, it helps out with centrating the hip and making it so the muscles of the hip actually work well together. And so taking that time and attention to it is really important. Now, learning the exercise and the movement first is probably step 1, and then you add the breath later once you got the movement down. This one's called a cat-cow. I like to think of starting the movement by flipping your tail feathers high, and then the rest of your body kind of follows that. And then you're going to start with the head, kind of the front end of the whip. You're going to bring the head down and try to go segment by segment to move the spine into a rounded position like a scaredy cat. And then you're going to slowly flip the tail feathers up. The rest of it comes with. Now you may notice that like I'm not moving segment by segment, and I got my own problems. We all do. All right, but just do your best. Breathe in the nose, out the mouth. And spend your time doing about 5-6 reps again. What this does is it helps kind of milk the spine out. All right, the disc between the bones of the spine actually get a lot of their nutrition by actual movement. And it's not just forward backwards movement like so, it's actually side to side and walking and so on. But this is a really easy way to synthetically kind of create it. All right, you want the spine to have nutrients, you want it to have movement. It makes it happy and healthy. All right, makes it more supple. So that's called a cat-cow. Just go really slow with it. I know I talked through it, but it's mainly to give you direction. Now the last one we're going to do is, we're going to use a ball. It's called hip extensions. There's many different ways to do hip extension. The one I'm picking today is mainly targeted at people who have this type of problem that I mentioned. I may not give a double leg bridge to people who have this problem because they have a tendency of arching their back. All right. Ideally, what we want, and this is called a glute bridge, or actually, rather, it's called a cook hip lift, and we're doing this version here. But the idea that you want to make sure that mainly the movement starts through here. This is just support, and this produces the drive at the foot. So it's going to look like so. Again, what we don't want is arching here, flaring of the ribs, the back coming off the floor. Because what this does is it makes it so the low back gets into the mix when we want the hip to work itself. It makes it so the hamstrings and the quads and the adductors get in the mix. Now, obviously you can't turn those muscles off, but we want to make them a little bit more dormant. We're going to take this ball and put it right into the crook of the hip, if you will, and we're going to go here and just make it so the actual ball is being held by the thigh, approaching the face. All right? If at any point you lose that ball, then you lose the game. All right? If this ball comes flying out at some point, you've lost the game. The exercise is completely worthless. And so we're going to go here and down real slow. For some of you who can't do a single leg bridge, that's okay. I'll flip this to the other side just so you can see what this foot is doing. All I want you to do is actually push the heel firmly into the floor as if you're trying to crack the concrete below. All right? Or if you want an assisted version, you can use the hands to push up too and slowly release the hands assistance on the way down. So I like to do about 5 to 10 of these. At some point, if you feel the hamstrings cramp, you've gone too far. But this is a really nice way to drive movement into the hip and actually spare some of the other muscles of the hip that are working a lot more, but also spare the back and the SI joint too. Now, if you guys are looking for help, we'd love to help you. We have virtual and in-person services, and we do have that webinar up in the corner. We're in Costa Mesa, California. We see people all the time with hip, low back, groin, sports hernias, SI joints, and we love helping you guys out with this. And so at the very least, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like this video. I'll see you next time.